Welcome to Hunter's Point, Episode 3. I'd been feeding Mr. Pete the sort of puff pieces he fancied, light, forgettably fair, that wouldn't stir a soul, let alone trouble the waters. Still, my mind wasn't on the news. It was on him, my gentleman caller, who, as fate would have it, bore the name Bentworth. That revelation alone was enough to set the whole of Hunter's Point whispering. And I had my suspicions, dark ones, that he was entangled in that secretive club of theirs. Why'd he begun to ignore me? I couldn't say, but I meant to find out. I left early that morning, heading down the cobbled lane to Hollow Grove to fetch my dress from Mama's seamstress. The air was thick, the kind that made you walk with purpose. Then I heard it, the soft clatter of hooves behind me. Turning, I saw a black carriage, polished like obsidian, gliding to a halt. Gilded on its side, bold as brass, was a single name, Bentworth.
May I offer you a ride, Avery?
The tall, stately gentleman said, stepping out of the carriage. His commanding presence and voice was unmistakably his, one of the elusive Bentworths, the same one who twice regarded me as though I were made of air.
I believe I prefer my own 2 feet. I don't make it a habit to ride with gentlemen who forget they've met me, I said, wincing the moment it left my mouth, too sharp for a man I scarcely knew.
I forget nothing, I said, turning to walk backward with an amused tilt of my brow. Tell me, when was I so grievously discourteous?
Yesterday, at the country club, you looked right through me, I explained, coming to an abrupt stop.
Then you must forgive me, I replied, stepping closer. I saw no one but shadows there. Where is it you're headed now? I said, trying to change the subject.
To retrieve my dress for the gallery opening, I narrowed my eyes. And don't pretend you're a stranger. I know you're Bentworth. I just haven't figured out which one.
James, I murmured, just above a whisper.
What was that? I halted again, hands on my hips.
James Adolphus Bentworth, I said, offering a courtly bow. At your service, Miss.
Avery Denise Pickney, I replied, lifting my chin with quiet pride as though my name bore as much gold as his.
Pickney, I echoed, eyes scanning her beautiful and innocent face. You don't seem the sort. Was it your father's name or your master's?
I've never known my father. Mr. Pickney sold him off when I was a child. It's just me, Mama, and my baby sister.
So, it's your former master's name.
It matters little now, I suspect. I'll take my husband's name soon enough, whoever he turns out to be.
A pragmatic woman. I like that. I moved toward the carriage, opening the door. May I now tempt you to reconsider my offer?
The sun was high, the air thick with summer's heat, and despite myself, I stepped inside. He spoke easily of his family's legacy, the weight of expectation and dreams he had believed in. I told him mine, the ones I'd never dared say aloud. But then came the questions, too many questions, about the Smithfields, who visited, who did they favor, and who was prettier, Meredith or Helen? When I caught a glint of the ring on his finger, the same crest Mr. Pete wore and emblazoned on the side of the carriage, I knew enough to doubt everything. But he was gentle and kind and seemed to be proud of who I wanted to become. Maybe I was too suspicious. Mr. Pickney wore a ring too. Just before reaching Hunter's Point, I asked him to let me out early, which he agreed to do if I promised to see him again. As I walked in, Meredith was waiting.
Well, that was awfully quick. I thought you were off to Hollow Grove.
Meredith said with her eyes narrowed like shutters against the morning sun as I crossed the threshold. The walk wasn't too dreadful, I replied evenly, though suspicion curled in my belly. She always asked questions like she already knew the answers.
What's in the bundle? The dress your mama stitched?
Helen leaned in with a sugar slick smile, too eager for something that didn't belong to her. Yes, ma'am, I answered, lifting my chin. All her own handiwork. Pride flickered in my chest.
Well, then, let's see it, I said, reaching out fingers like claws cloaked in silk. We need to be sure it meets our standards.
Yes, child, came the low humming voice of Madame Constance as she entered the room. Let us see what Miss Stella's hands have made.
Yes, ma'am. Reluctantly, I peeled back the butcher paper, revealing the golden tan silk, glistening like the afternoon sun, with crystal beadwork dancing across the bodice and gloves to match. The room went silent.
Their faces told the story before anyone spoke. The dress eclipsed the Thibodeau frock by miles, and my pre-party gown equally fine. I should have felt triumphant, but something in Meredith's eye warned me.
Magnificent, said Madame Constance, snatching the dress from my hands and holding it up before Helen. You two are near the same size, aren't you?
I wouldn't know, ma'am, I said, carefully stepping forward to take my dress back. I'm sure Mama can fashion one for her as well.
No, there's no time for that. She waved me off like smoke in the wind. Helen shall wear this one. It's far too grand for a girl of your station. I passed the gown to Helen without another glance.
Oh, thank you, Mother. It's the loveliest thing I've ever seen. I looked at Avery, not with pity, but with possession. But what shall Avery wear? I asked with a veiled hint of concern.
She can choose from Lady Thibodeau's things. However, this is a masterpiece.
My stomach caved in. My knees felt hollow. The dress, tan like warm sand, jeweled with care, lace as fine as spider silk, gone just like that. I opened my mouth to protest, but Miss Lawrence appeared, gliding in like a gust before a storm.
Here are the dresses Lady Thibodeau left behind, she said gently, almost kindly, a mercy in her voice that startled me more than the cruelty.
But I don't want those, I protested quietly as she gently pushed the small of my back to guide me out of the room. Tears slipped down my face before I could catch them. I want the one my mama made me. Why would they just take it? I complained while accepting her hug.
Avery, until your family's debt is paid, everything you bring into this house belongs to the Smithfields. If you want to keep something, don't let them see it.
She pressed the faded gowns into my hands. They felt like ashes. I stared at the pile. Parisian scraps, maybe once grand, now limp and lifeless. None of them held the soul Mama stitched into every seam.
I'm sorry, Avery. I was caught off guard too. But I think I may know a way to fix this. I began walking to the corridor, hoping she'd listen through her offense.
It was Helen who whispered the scheme, soft as sin and sweet as honey, a plan to help me get my dress back. But could I trust her? Even now, with my mama's dress torn from me like a birthright, and only weeks before the grand affair, I wasn't sure. And James, I hadn't seen him since that ride to Hollow Grove. His absence made things worse, not better. So the morning after, I sat at the breakfast table, in silence, scanning the observer for any trace of him. I half hoped to find his name in bold print. Instead, I found a knife. There he was, James Adolphus Bentworth, on the arm of an unnamed woman, standing tall as ever in the society page. But what arrested me wasn't his presence. It was the headline of a brand new column beneath him called The Parlor Tales. Eris, Sticky Fingers, strikes again. A society gossip page, the ink still wet. It detailed a string of thefts across Hunters Point's finest milliners and jewelers, all traced back to a mysterious young woman of status. They didn't name her, but they didn't have to.
This is filth. Absolute filth. I'll see this little rag burned to cinders. Who gave him permission to drag my family's name through the mud? Madame Constance's voice cracked like thunder, sharper than I'd ever heard it, clutching the paper.
Now, Constance. This could be about anyone in Hunters Point. There are plenty of young women with a taste for trinkets and poor judgment, I said, trying to soothe my concerned wife.
Well, I know of one young lady who just so happened to work for the newspaper and was conveniently here the same day the detective came snooping around. She didn't have to say my name. Everyone turned.
Avery, tell me, you are not behind this disgrace.
Her voice wasn't angry. It was worse. It was wounded. No, ma'am, I never. I only write about public events, galas, community matters. I would never write about your family. I'm deeply grateful for your hospitality. My mother and I.
How convenient. You've got ink on your fingers and secrets in your eyes. How do we know it wasn't you?
Meredith questioned me like a guard dog. It's Mr. Pete. He reviews every column before it runs. He'll tell you, I had nothing to do with this page. I retorted, growing angry at the accusation.
We won't dignified with the response. We don't know if it's about Meredith. Perhaps no one will ever know.
But I knew, and the entire staff did too. And as I watched Madame Constance fold the paper in her trembling hands, I realized the truth wasn't enough to keep me safe in that house. Not anymore. The days that followed were heavy with silence and stares. Every glance held suspicion. Every whispered corner seemed to echo my name. It wasn't until Madame Constance herself declared I was not the traitor that I could breathe again, though the air remained thick with mistrust. At the Observer, no one knew who had leaked the scandal, not even Mr. Pete, but I had my suspicions. There were only a few with access to such delicate truths, and I intended to uncover the hand that had spilled them. There was still no talk about the attacks in Hunter's Point, but I knew better. Blood doesn't vanish with silence. So, when I spotted the detective, yes, the very one who'd stood grim-faced in the Smithfield parlor, enjoying a cone at the corner ice cream parlor, I knew fate had drawn the curtain on a new act. I had gone to my mind off my stolen dress. Time to set James and all the Smithfield melodrama aside. There were greater shadows at play.
Officer, Breyer, isn't it? I said, producing my notebook with careful ceremony, as if they made me look like more of a reporter.
You look familiar. Have we crossed paths before? I replied, looking at a face that seemed unfamiliar and familiar at the same time.
At the Smithfields residence during the incident.
Ah, yes, that circus. Then narrowing his eyes. What's with the pencil?
I had hoped to ask you a few questions. I'm still finding my way in this town, and you seem knowledgeable, I said, trying to feign innocence.
All right. And you can call me David. You have to make it quick. I've got little time and even less to say, I relented, pointing to a bench.
What do you know about the Hollow Grove Reaper? I said, lowering my voice and leaning in.
Good night. Where did you hear that name? I asked, leaning back. That's not public knowledge. I thought you'd ask about Sticky Fingered Meredith. That was your piece in the Observer. What's it called? The Parlor Tales? I asked suspiciously, sitting back with my eyes hard and sharp.
I'm not sure. And how do you know it's about Meredith? Rich folks steal all the time. Folks just don't print it.
Spoken like someone who's seen behind the lace curtain. But I'll warn you, if the Smithfields think you've spilled their secrets to all the Hunters Point, they'll bury you in silk and never speak your name again.
I didn't write that column. And I'm not here to stir society's pot. I just want to understand what's going on about the Reaper off the record.
Miss Pickney, this investigation is tightly sealed. No leaks, no rumors. You shouldn't even know the name.
Then you've got nothing to fear from me. I'm not after scandal. I'm after truth. Let me be the one you talk to, quietly. I won't print a word unless you give me leave.
I've been wanting to tell someone. The attacks began 3 months past. First in Hollow Grove, now closer, Hunter's Point. Silent, swift, and strange, he said, sounding relieved to talk about it.
Are there any leads? Evidence? I pressed.
Some. There were symbols left behind, markings, patterns, but none of them make sense yet.
Tell me, I might see what others can't.
I've already said too much. You will keep this quiet, I asked through stern eyes.
You have my word. This is about protecting people, not printing stories.
All right. We'll see what comes of this partnership, but I want something in return.
What's that?
When the truth does come out, I want to be captain. Can you write a story that makes that happen?
Well, I don't know about the captain part, but if you let me write a story, I can at least get your name out.
Stay close, I said, getting up abruptly, ending the meeting.
I smiled, ink already drying in my mind. Yes, sir, I said, pencil poised. This new alliance may be exactly what I need on the inside.
I leaned back, letting the chill of the ice cream melt on my tongue. For a moment, it quieted the noise in my head. He was gone, but the questions remained. The Smithfields had to know about the attacks, and if they did, James might have known too. And I wonder if the symbols are the same as on the side of the carriage. Now that I had a connection to the detective, I intended to pull out every thread until something unraveled. The ice cream was a small consolation after losing my dress. Their dress, a borrowed lie draped over my shoulders, but I needed more than fabric. I needed to look the part. So I went to Lady Thibodeau's boutique. Her shop was a world unto itself. Velvet mannequins wore the season's boldest gowns. Trinkets glinted like secrets on silk-lined shelves. Every assistant was a copy of the next. White blouse, pink cardigan, pearls, polished smiles, and secret tucked neatly beneath their skirts.
Well, hello. Avery, isn't it? I said, flicking my finger toward a tufted chair. Sit.
Thank you, ma'am. Your shop is it's beautiful, I said, looking around at its splendor.
Thank you. I was hoping you'd bring the dress your mother made.
No, ma'am, it didn't fit. Helen's wearing it now. I pulled the replacement from my bag, modest, wrinkled from regret. I was wondering if you could enhance this one. She didn't take it. She just stared.
Your mother sold you a dress that didn't fit? Her voice was like a blade wrapped in silk. That doesn't sound like her. She finally reached for the garment, pinching it like it offended her fingers. Short notice. What do I get in return?
What would you like? I asked, heart pounding.
Information about what's going on behind gilded doors. Secrets that don't make the society page? Oh, and a feature in the Observer. Fancy pictures, front and center. My name, spelled right, bold. She narrowed her eyes. Can you make that happen?
Maybe. Mr. Pete's the final say, but if he agrees, he'll want the Observer displayed in your front window, I explained as her lips curled.
Get those things done, and I will pay your mother to work as one of my dressmakers. I threw in, revealing my true intentions.
These are weighty requests and out of my control, I said, gathering the dress.
Well, if he gives me the front page, I'll get that paper in every colored boutique from here to Birmingham. That's real circulation. One word from my privileged lips could free your family from their chains. That is all I expect. If you can do more, I can too, I said, extending my hand.
Deal, I said, happy I didn't have to give her any money out of my $10 check as she handed me the expensive pair of shoes.
What we struck was more than a business exchange. It was an alliance, one that would serve us both for a time. But beneath that polished promise, there were untold truths. Hunter's Point held its breath, and soon secrets would surface like bones in shallow water. Thank you for joining us for episode 3 of Hunter's Point. Next week on Hunter's Point.
I've heard whispers of a fabric shop that carries rare silks. Perhaps I'll find the final thread I need there.
Well, we shall soon find out. I have a spy perfectly placed to get what I need.
Well, I'm tired of being left behind. If Meredith gets to run around town chasing excitement, then so do I.
Tune in every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time this fall for weekly episodes. This has been a Royal, Black, and Elite production.